Sup, everybody? Carson, Nicholas. We're not here to see an X-Men film. Sorry for wearing the shirt. We are here to see a different comic book movie, Hellboy.
Midnight review. Sun. Directly in the face.
It's got to be midnight somewhere. Fuck it. So yeah, Hellboy. I have a... I'm not a big fan of the first one. Of the first Guillermo del Toro Hellboy film.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just kind of, it's alright. It's cool. It's alright. Love the second one. But I feel that it's more because I love Guillermo del Toro. Not so much Hellboy. Because you look at the design of everything in that movie, that's super Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, it's a lot of that dark fantasy, you know, like they really got into that pretty big time.
Whereas this movie looks a little bit closer to the Mike Mignola comic stuff. Not saying GDT did anything wrong or like he didn't do a good job adapting it. It's just a different adaptation, different choice to make. I think David Harbour is kind of an inspired choice for Hellboy. I think that's actually a really good choice. Beyond that, so I watched the trailer the first time, I'm like, all right, that doesn't look too bad. And I thought about it more and more, and I'm like, I started getting that feeling of like, I think we're seeing all the best stuff in the trailer, and everything that's in between the bits that they show is just like exposition dumps and jokes that fall flat.
I don't think so at all. I think there's probably going to be a ton of, like, you know, I don't know, be it fight scenes or whatever that are not in the trailer, because I feel like the trailer didn't show anything.
Yeah.
Like, what did the trailer even show?
Well, that's the thing, is I'm afraid that the only fights are, you know, some goofy fight with Hellboy, like dicking around with some ogres out in the middle of some field somewhere, the wrestling match, that big weird thing with the sword chopping people up in the streets of London, and then a final battle between like Hellboy and Tinkin.
I don't know, from what I've heard, like not recently, but when this movie was in production, is that it is pretty dark and fucking violent. That's why I was like kind of taken aback by the first trailer, because it seemed like pretty goofy, lighthearted. But what I've heard still is that it's still pretty dark and pretty extremely fucking violent. Yeah. Like,
now I will say, I am ready to be wrong, and I'd be happy to be wrong.
And you know what? Like, I'm trying not to compare the two very much, because I actually don't think that Hellboy and Hellboy 2 are like the greatest movies. I like them, but I also watch basketball like once a month. And so like,
I almost used a basketball reference at work. Like, I came that fucking close.
It's a good movie, you know. Yeah. But you know, I just like it because when it came out, and you know, it's just a movie I enjoy watching. It doesn't make it a great movie. Like, I kind of think a lot of people look back at the first two Hellboys with some rose-tinted glasses for sure.
Yes, absolutely. But you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't have the affection that other people have, so I am more ready to embrace something new. Yeah. And be like, you know what? Guillermo del Toro has had like a zillion movies since the end of Hellboy 2, and today,
I think there's a certain point where you just have to accept that you got two pretty good movies. Why do you need... How old is Ron Perlman, dude?
Yeah. Like, you can only put so much of that makeup onto him.
Yeah, it's like, it's cool. We got two good movies.
I will say both Ron Perlman and David Harbour, like, very, like, Hellboy-ish faces. More Ron Perlman than David, but still.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think it's going to be the greatest movie ever.
Yeah.
I don't even want to walk out and be super wowed, but, you know.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Let's go check this thing out.
Boy, I need some ID, love.
Are you serious?
We're back and the sun is out of our eyes.
Dark. Nice.
What'd you think?
I really liked it. I think that not every single movie has to be some big fucking thought piece. I thought that this movie did a lot better job. So I'm going to compare it to Guillermo del Toro a little bit.
How can you not?
Because I think this movie did a heaps better job of combining like I guess what you call like the human like overworld and like the monster world. I think it did loads better than just like here's the weird kind of underground bazaar in the second movie, Hellboy in the Golden Army, and like it's just some kind of random throne room scenes. I think this movie did a pretty good job of that. I like that they went with this one will probably be pretty divisive. I like that they sort of treated this movie like it was a sequel to another Hellboy movie that like we didn't get. Like there's not a lot of introduction to characters. Like they treat it like people know that Hellboy exists. To a certain extent, they kind of imply that people know that this paranormal stuff exists. And that it doesn't deal with a lot of like the first movie, which is pretty, a huge part of the first movie is that, oh, I want to go outside, let me go outside. Oh, here's your babysitter, he's not gonna let you go outside. Oh, look, we met the girl, she does fire hands. We don't really want her to go outside either. And it's like, they kind of have, like 2 scenes in the movie where Hellboy's like, come on, like, why am I doing this in this Hellboy? But the whole movie doesn't dwell on it.
Well, it's much more what is my purpose
than like let me go outside.
Yeah.
Which is literally like let me go outside is a huge part. I love the action in this movie. I thought the CGI
it's very rated R.
I thought the CGI was awesome. Like you could tell there were certain scenes where the VFX workers were like it's our fucking time to shine, guys. And I was really big on that.
Forearms unto the forearm god.
Yeah.
That guy made me laugh the hardest.
I think that the storyline's pretty like cookie cutter, but give me a comic book adaptation that's not like pretty fucking cookie cutter these days. So
these days, yeah.
Yeah. Like we've already talked about this with Shazam. Like I'm kind of over like hero's journey crap, king taking back the throne sort of crap.
Yeah.
I thought this was refreshing. It was nice. You could kind of just turn your brain off and enjoy the movie. I was pretty stoked on that.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
How'd you feel about David Harbour's lips? You had like a lot of issue with that when you saw the trailers.
I think that I was kind of able to sort of like look past it a bit.
Yeah.
Mostly just because he's kind of really only putting out like 2 emotions like the whole movie.
Angry and more angry.
Which is fair because like there's
Hellboy.
There's no that's not out of character for Hellboy. That's the case in Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy movies as well. So
yeah.
There was like the kind of weird scene at the start where it's like way too zoomed in on his face when he's in Tijuana. And like it looked kind of, I don't know, like it's not very animated.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It almost kind of works. Like they make he has very rocky features. I mean, he literally has a fucking rock looking hand. So I feel like they kind of get away with it. I wasn't really distracted by it at any point in the movie.
No,
there's so much more stuff going on the screen than his face.
Yeah. And yeah. I agree with that statement. It never bugged me, but in the movie it's like, okay, that's where it will or will not bug me. And yeah, it's just like, you just get over it really quick. So the story of this thing is Hellboy is working for the BPRD, just hunting down monsters and shit. And he's
been doing it a while. We're not like,
I will say, while the first GDT movie doesn't feel like his first day on the job, it feels like he's only been doing it for maybe a year.
It also makes it like they are really trying to get you into like who is Hellboy, and at this point, like obviously he's not like the most well-known character, but they kind of do what I'll call like the Batman thing, where it's like, hey, Rasputin.
I do like the fact that that this movie trusts Hellboy a lot more than the first GDT movie, because, you know, that first one was really dragged down by by his babysitter. Like, I don't care.
This movie's definitely benefited from, you know, I guess over 10 years of comic book movies coming out.
Yeah.
Since then.
Yeah.
You can really skip a lot of the. We don't have to. And it's funny because I've complained about this before, but like, we don't have to focus on the origin as much. But it's like, we don't have to focus on the origin of this one as much because we already know it to a certain extent.
Well,
it's not like something like, you know, like, you know, like my problem with Doctor Strange, where it's like, it's Doctor Strange's first major film appearance and they spend, you know, 15 minutes of the movie on how he gets to, like, where he gets. And they don't really, but it's, and I felt like they needed to spend maybe more time, because otherwise, you know, like, my problem with that is he's just like Magic Iron Man.
I think that
this, it's like we've already had it on film. Like, we already know, like, okay, he was summoned by Nazis, and they do go over it in the movie. It's not like they just gloss over it, but they go over it akin to like how Batman v Superman goes over Batman's intro. They show flashback. It's fairly quick.
Yeah.
And then we're back. We're back to the story.
Yeah.
And I really like that. I could appreciate that. I don't know, because I give this movie a pass on a lot of stuff because I just thought it was stylish as fuck. Like,
yeah, this movie definitely had a sense of fun about itself. I do like that it gives kind of a world weariness to Hellboy himself, and that they very, very strongly acknowledge that he is a one-man wrecking machine. Like, he doesn't need a team. Like, but the members that they do put with him, the way that they, it isn't a team coming together movie, but there's a lot of team in the movie. It never feels like, hey, you know, Hellboy needs our help. It's more like, we can assist him, we can lend him a hand, we can make this a little bit easier and won't take as much time to do it. And I appreciated that about it. You know, definitely didn't treat it with kid gloves in any way.
yeah.
I like Baba Yaga stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that I really liked about this movie that I started to notice probably about halfway through it, that I was like really big on, and this is another one of those things where I think that depends where you look at it from, because, you know, it depends if you're looking at it like, are we looking at this like movie, comic book movie, we're going to compare it to the comic book, we're going to compare it to like old, you know, like the GDT stuff. I really liked that this movie felt like it was built and like shot and the story was told like it was a comic. Like, there's a lot of like saying there, like kind of like the saying my intentions out loud and cutting back.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot of I don't know, not like a lot, but there's like a lot of flashbacks, a lot of really sudden like scene changes that looked kind of like, you know, like Hellboy comics, well, a lot of comics in general have like really sudden like panel changes where like the scenery is changing like really fast, like what's going on. I really like that, like, especially like I started to notice it about when they're doing the giant hunting stuff. I was like, wait, these are really like jam-packed scenes, and like the like close-up, like, you know, the establishing shots and the close-ups are just like they're switching around so fast.
Yeah.
It looked like a comic.
You know, funny enough, I think upon watching this film again, I will probably end up liking it more, because there were certain elements where I'm like, I don't know if that's really been earned, but now thinking about it, it's like, no, the movie actually did spend a lot of time making that clear while still being entertaining. And I will also give this movie a lot of credit. It didn't feel like a Marvel movie where they just hand the action sequences off to a second unit. I mean, there's probably a lot of second unit, but it was very distinct.
I was there for the credits.
Style. Yeah,
Those are some long credits.
Yeah, very distinct action sequences, which were unexpected and very pleasant. Funny enough, the two that are really coming to mind, the giant thing in at the end there, actually reminded me a lot of how like the Kingsman action sequences are shot.
Yeah, and there was
a little bit more close up, but still like this is pretty clear.
There was a lot. I really like the actions, but I don't know. For some reason, I was really big on getting like I was a really big fan of like the gore, really, because there's something really disconnecting. I'm sorry. There's something really disconnecting about talking about beings from hell, ancient, immortal sorceresses, and then it's like, you're turning
seven
people
deadly sins.
Yeah, okay, so like, well, I'll compare it to Shazam because that's still fresh.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, here we have seven deadly sins. In a PG-13 movie, they're supposed to be like devouring humans.
Well,
and it's
yeah,
just
I
kind
mean,
of like,
well, that's the thing is like gluttony. It's like, okay, yeah, devour them. I mean,
everybody else, it's like
lust and greed probably ain't gonna devour them the same way, but it all looks the same.
Everybody's just kind of tackling each other, and like that's fine for what that is because that's not the focus of the movie.
Yeah,
but one of the things that can get kind of, when you're dealing with something like that is like these are giants. They eat people. They show literal piles of bodies because these motherfuckers have been eating them.
Yeah.
The main villain, is shooting flesh-eating plague at people from the very start of the movie.
A lot of eyeball gouging.
A lot of eyeballs coming out.
Yeah.
A lot of everything. I feel like we saw probably the inside of every part of a body in this movie. Like, just from stumbling across bodies to like watching people get killed, and like it really. Like, it was dark. Like, the movie had funny bits. But the trailer set a whole different tone for the movie. Like, I remember when we saw the first trailer, I was like, oh, God, this movie's going to blow.
Yeah. I will say, I wouldn't...
But I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised.
If you were to go into a classic video store and you were to see this one in the horror section, if you're to line up all three of these Hellboy adaptations... This is the one I'd say, yeah, that belongs in the horror section.
This is a dark movie, dude. Like, and I mean, it's got like, one-liners. I mean, the movie kind of ends on a pretty hilarious one-liner.
I will say,
it's not like this movie's not like going for laughs.
The other thing is that not all of the characters. So the humor that comes from the other characters is unintentional. Not like unintentionally written. The characters don't mean to be funny.
Yeah.
Except Hellboy, and that makes sense because Hellboy's like, I mean, we see him get pretty thoroughly fucked up, and it's like
several times.
All right, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay. If I had a difficult time dying, I would probably also have that very similar disposition.
Yeah, when someone's, trying to swing a 30-foot sword at you, and that's like the fourth time that's happened today, you're probably going to be like, really?
Yeah.
Are we done with this shit yet?
And he has a world
he's very sardonic.
Jokes.
He's incredibly sardonic, and it's like
it fits his character quite well.
It fits, and it's usually a lot of like the unintentional humor is literally him pointing out to people. Like, well, I was, like I've dealt with people like you 1,000 times.
I was more saying like the other members of the team. They're again written funny characters aren't trying to be funny.
Yeah,
and it feels kind of refreshing in that regard. I gotta say, if this looks like your kind of movie, you're gonna walk in there and you're gonna have a hell of a time. If you are looking for a very violent adventure film full of like pretty cool looking creature design and character design, you're gonna really enjoy yourself on this one, I think.
Yeah, I feel like we just need something like this every once in a while,
Kind of a palate cleanser.
I don't need.
In 2 weeks we're getting Endgame, so yeah.
It's like I don't need another, 10 film setup. I don't need any I don't know.
Like, if this one gets another one, it'll be like,
It's
cool.
nice that it's not
It'll be
Marvel
another
or
one.
it's just nice that it's a comic book movie that's not Marvel or DC for once, because I don't have to go in there expecting like how are they gonna combine this with something else or are they gonna bring this villain out? It's like Hellboy's kind of nice because everybody, you know, most of the villains in Hellboy kind of want to do the same thing.
Hell on Earth.
Yeah,
That's their goal.
it's I don't know, that's cool.
There's almost a there's almost like a relaxing element to it, like a Bond film. It's like you always know they want to take over the Earth.
Yeah.
Let's just watch Bond, or in this case Hellboy, react to having to deal with the same assholes with the same goals. And I don't know. This is one of those things where I would honestly love to see a number of films, still very violent, but I would love to see a number of films that are just like, hey, this is this director's take on it, or this is you know, just this is just Hellboy dealing with a different culture's demons, because a lot of Anglo-Saxon English demons and demonology stuff to it and everything. That's cool. I like seeing that. I think it'd be really cool to be like, shit, he's in India and he's having to fight Vishnu or something. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a lot of fun.
And there's like a one brief moment where he talks about,
and that's where I was kind of like, this could open
where
it up a little
he's
bit.
like, I met Raw once.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Oh, sorry, 2 moments. But yeah, so I would be very interested in seeing where this goes.
It's cool. Yeah, it's very like, you know, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, I mean, they could kind of take the Bond approach, really, where I wish that I wish a studio had the nuts to do that, to be like, you know what, can we just make 5 comic book movies about the same character where he's just fighting different villains, like an actual comic book?
Yeah.
It's like, can we do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Disney might be doing that shit now that they announced all those shows.
Yeah.
But they're doing it like after the fact, like after their big story. They did the crossover event first.
Yeah.
You know? And
So
I don't know. I didn't have any really like glaring issues with this movie. I don't know. I guess I've heard some stuff, and I
gotta
don't
be
know.
completely honest. I do not understand where this film is getting like a super negative Rotten Tomatoes score from. Like, what the shit?
I don't know, because it's like just go watch it.
Like, even at its worst, it's not that bad. What the hell?
At its worst, it's just like campy, cheesy at some points.
But it knows what it is.
But like, it's not doing that. That's not unintentional.
Yeah.
I feel like every part of this movie was like very intentional. I never felt like it was, you know, like some 50 Shades Freed victory lap kind of masturbatory bullshit. I felt like this movie like took what, like, even if it didn't earn it, it like took what it wanted, you know? They're like, yo, we just killed this guy, fucking one-liner his ass right now. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you know, save that for the sequel, some people would say, but I'm like, they're just taking it, dude. They're like, you know what?
That's what it feels like. It feels like they got one shot to do this the way they wanted to, and they said,
it's like,
here's your check, do it.
It's like it's like a sequel to a movie that never came out. Like, because they're just taking the shit. They're like, they're treating the audience like, yo, like, you're with us on this. You've seen this before. And it's like, wait, but we haven't. But they're like, fucking yeah, you have. they're like, he's like, you know, remember my old partner? It's like, I don't remember your old partner, but you've now you've like gaslighted me into believing that I remember this character existing, and they just fucking take it and run with it. And like, I can respect that. I think that we kind of, you know, in the post Marvel world, I think that I feel like studios can kind of take advantage of how audiences approach comic book movies and honestly, get away with it.
It all comes back to Guardians of the Galaxy. As soon as people are like, that raccoon talks and that tree dude just says, I am Groot a lot, and I love them both, After that really is kind of a weird watershed moment where it's like audiences will just kind of go with it until you give them a reason not to. And this film never really gives you a reason not to go with it.
Yeah.
So that is all we have to say about Hellboy for now, at least, for this review. If anything we've said sparks you to go see it, please go see it. Like the video and comment below what you thought of the movie and what you also, how you kind of compare it to the GDT movies. Because as much as you don't want to do that, fuck it, we're doing it. We're comparing it.
Very different
How can you not? So, with that being said, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/glassfilmshouse, Twitter, where I'm most active, at Glasshouse Films, and next week,
what is next
in the
week?
run-up to Avengers Endgame, we have a choice, and I know what my choice is going to be. We have either After, which, brief moment, watcher, viewer, do you know the movie After coming out, right? Okay. Do you know what that actually comes from?
No.
It is based off of a book that was originally a self-insert fan fiction of Harry Styles of One Direction.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. What else is there though?
The other one is Under the Silver Lake, which that's my choice.
I think that'll probably be my choice too.
Yeah, because that's next to him from the dude who made It Follows. It's not a horror film, but I'm like, that guy has he has a certain style. He's a very strong storyteller, and I really want to see where he goes next. So that's what we got. And then, of course, the week after, Avengers Endgame. I don't even know why I would do a review of it, apart from just, ceremony, I guess. I mean, shit, might as well review all the other movies coming out around Endgame and then be like, counter-programming, but...
The one movie that comes out the same week.
Yeah, the one or two. Anyway, thank you for watching. We will see you next week for probably Under the Silver Lake. Bye.